Ich habe mein, ich habe mir untergegangen. Ich war jung, mir bin ich hier.
Yeah. Show me the alumni here. Send the
Ja.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to see some familiar faces here. Almost faces. This week's parsha, Ki tisa es rosh b'nai Yisrael v'fkudehem. So we derive a few basic concepts simply from the words that the Torah used. The Torah could have said ki tispor, like by sphera. Count, or simne, comma, how many? The Torah doesn't use those words. The Torah says ki tisa es rosh b'nai Yisrael, which literally means when you raise the heads of the Jewish people, lifkudehem, in order to know the number, the census number that you want to achieve, you'll do so with the machzus hashekel. So from here we derive the halacha that's well known to all of us, that we don't count people directly. We count people indirectly. So the count of the Jewish people was with the machzus hashekel. By Shaul HaMelech, when he counted the Jewish people, it says, Vayifkadein bat playim. He counted them with sheep. Everybody brought a sheep, and then he counted the sheep. They knew how many people there were. I mean, you don't count directly. We have that custom also. We want to determine whether we have 10 people, a minyan. So we use a pasuk of Shir Samecha that has 10 words to it. We don't go 1, 2, 3, 4. Why not? So my mother would always have answered because of ayin hara. But I was always too sophisticated to subscribe to that. So my mother came from semi-Hasidic stock. So she had a different view of the world already. So the reason that we don't do it, it's explained in all the Mefarshim. The Ramban talks about it, the Ibn Ezra talks about it, and Rashi alludes to it in the Gemara, not here, but in the Gemara he alludes to it, is because of the fact there are no two people alike. And if there are no two people alike, you can't say 1, 2. It's 1, 1, 1, 1. Everyone is a 1. And we see that in the Torah, that it says that Moshe Rabbeinu had 2 sons, Shemo Echad Eliezer, Shemo Echad Gershom. The name of the first one was Gershom, Giyera Yisi Beretz Nachriya, Mishem HaEchad Eliezer. So it should say Mishem HaSheni, the name of the second son. The answer is, that's not how it is. Gershom is an Echad, and Eliezer is an Echad. And many times in parenting or in educating, there are people that forget that lesson. And they don't realize that even though they're from the same biological parents and they're raised in the same home, They're not the same. I remember my oldest daughter, Miriam Leah Nora, she takes after her mother. She's a very brilliant woman. She's a principal at a school. She's a writer. She's a speaker. She's a consultant. She's, so when she went to school, she used to get 110, 115 on every exam because she did the extra credit problems too. My youngest daughter, who is a great woman, Rebbetzin Teitelbaum in the 5 towns, who is making Aliyah, and I hope they get here. That's even without the protection today. It's just too wild. Anyway, so when but she was very happy if she got an 80, an 85. She just wanted to pass the course. She was not interested. So she would, the first day, I remember she was in 2nd grade, she went up to the teacher and she said, "I'm Sarah, I'm not Miriam." And I felt that was really a level of depth of understanding of a child. Don't compare me to my older sister. I'm me. This is what I am. So because of that, when we count, we don't count people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We count indirectly. And that's why Chazal say that Mageifa came when they counted directly because of the fact that cheapens life. You're 1 out of 1,000,000, so it doesn't mean anything. And unfortunately, there are many that look at it that way. But truthfully, we have to look at every one of ourselves as being one. I'm the only one like this. Nobody else going to come through this world with my DNA and what I can do and who I am. I mean, I'm me. Today I did a hesped for Dr. Tversky. So he wrote 85 books, published 85 books. So they asked him, "How did you write 85 books?" So he said, "I only wrote 1 book, but I wrote it 85 times." What was the book? The book was on self-worth. That if you have self-worth, if you know who you are, if you're comfortable in your own skin, so then you don't become an alcoholic and you don't become a drug addict and you don't get into all the problems because you have an inner security. This is who I am. And if this is who I am, then you're able to function. The Torah tells it to us. And therefore, in all of these little nuances, it's not one of the 365 lavin to count somebody. So you say, "Oh, it's a custom, it's a nice thing, it's this, it's that." The Torah, every nuance in the Torah comes to teach us an important message, an important moral imperative. And the moral imperative is that everyone is one, everyone is the one. There's a second thing that also fits into this, and why it says Ki tisa'is rosh. You want to be counted amongst the Jewish people, you have to be proud that you're a Jew. You should never be ashamed that you're a Jew. Ki tisa'is rosh, pick up your head. Special people. No other people in the history of the world has our history. Nobody has anything like us. So you have to raise yourself. So you have to have that self-confidence. That a great deal of the problem that exists in the secular Jewish world is not so much non-observance as the fact that they don't know what it is to be Jewish. So they have no pride in it. It doesn't mean anything to them. They have no connection to it. Our Rav Goldwicht is in the army now for 3 weeks. And so I've had a few conversations with him about the army. So he says, it's a crazy thing, he says. They gave me that orange beret, which is as ugly as could be, to match the ugliness of the Israeli army's uniforms. And he said, all of a sudden I felt something. I belonged. I'm part of it. I'm part of something that you have to be proud of. A person that has that feeling, so you have a different attitude towards everything. You just see the world differently. So that's what the Torah said, Ki tisa es rosh b'nei Yisrael lifkureihem. If they'll be proud, they'll pick up their head. And we find that by the Novi Yonah. They asked them all sorts of questions, the sailors. I am Boso, where do you come from? And what do you do? Where are you going? How come you got us into all this trouble? And he answered only one thing. He said, Ivri Anochi. I'm a Jew. That answers all the questions. So he could have said, whatever he wanted to say to avoid it. But the nature of great people is that they are comfortable who they are. We saw Martin Gilbert in his book on the Holocaust has an anecdote that was told to him by a German SS Waffen soldier who was involved in the slaughter of Jews in Eastern Europe. And he said to him that they made a roundup. And in the roundup, they caught a Jewish child. And the Jewish child said to him, I want you to know that the child said, I know that you're Esau and I'm Yaakov. And I know that you're going to shoot me. But I still rather be Yaakov than Esau. He said, because of that, he let the child go. Which is, he said, Gilbert said to him that may be his merit, how he survived the war on the Eastern Front. Because the whole division of the SS was wiped out by the Russians. They were wiped out in the war, and then they were wiped out after the war. But that's it. I know that I'm Yaakov, so then that's me. So all of that is involved in these two words, ki tisa. To raise yourself, to be comfortable with yourself, to know who you are. And that's the task I always felt in the yeshivas, and the task of a Jewish education, and the task of a Jewish home. The child will develop according to the child, but the parent has to inject, the first immunization is pride. That's the way it is. And just in conclusion, I remember that when I was a Rav in Miami Beach, so my children had very few really religious friends. They had a lot of friends that went to the Hebrew Academy with them, but and it became a time of bat mitzvah parties with the disc jockeys and with boys, with dancing, there were just what the Lord had in mind. So I remember that one of my daughters said she was invited, and it's a very good friend. And she said she would behave herself. She wanted to go. I didn't want to be the harsh father, so I turned it over to my wife. And my wife told her wisely, my wife didn't say it's us or, and this and that. My wife said to her, that's not our family. Our family doesn't behave that way. And I thought that it was a brilliant answer. Because then that ends the conversation. This is our family. This is what we do. I'm not saying anything about anybody else. I'm saying about my family. So Klal Yisrael is our family. And that's why the Torah says, Ki tisah, raise up your head. Be proud of your family. And then it says, V'nos no'ishko for nafsho. Then the Rabboni Shalom forgives us for things. Then it becomes a positive thing instead of just a demanding thing. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashi Omer Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakol Tzis Yisrael V'fichal Chir B'Lahem Torah Mitzvot She'emar Adonai Chapetz Man Tzidko Yagdil Torah V'Yadir.